welcome back. Here we go. I'm going to close up here with part 4. And where I left off at was I was talking about the bankruptcy and the dealings with the IRS. While I was in prison, the IRS put tax liens on my trust. And I had a $4,000 CD in the bank. I put it in for my kids. I should have put it in my children's names instead of mine. But they froze them. They also froze an account, a checking account that had a little over $8 in it. That's the one I spoke about in the previous video about they wanted me to come close out the account. Those accounts got frozen due to tax liens. And the reason the IRS did that is they tried to say that we filed frivolously. And they hit my trust, or the taxpayer, with 2 $5,000 civil penalty fees. Then they put the liens in. They never noticed me that there was taxes due, which is a violation of the 1966 Federal Tax Act. And they violated quite a few of them tax acts. So, I'm in prison, and hey, my wife's like, hey, man, the IRS froze these accounts. And it was a 5-year CD. It doesn't mature. It isn't maturing for a couple more years anyway, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm like, look, there's nothing I can do about it till I get out. So about 6 months later, I got out. And I called Social Security off, or not Social Security, but the IRS. And I said, look, man, why have you froze my accounts? Well, you owe us money in civil penalties, and you filed frivolously. I said, no, I didn't file frivolously. I can prove it. But I tried to talk with them on the phone, try and straighten it out before it got too far gone. And I spent 3 days, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day on the phone, on hold most of the time, getting passed around most of the time, just to get hung up on. And the last day that I called them, I said, look, man, let me speak to somebody in your legal department before this gets really ugly. Before they can put a tax lien on you, they have to notice you. They never did that. They supposed to send you something certified saying, look, man, you got civil penalties from a frivolous filing. And well, they never did that, or at least they could never prove that they served. So I told him, I said, look, I didn't do that. I didn't file anything frivolously. You're crazy. I talked to the guy in the legal department, and he ended up hanging up on me. Oh, man, I was hot. I said, man, I'm going to take a couple days off of this stuff. And about a week went by. I said, you know what, I'm going to call the Treasury. I got contracts with these guys. I'm going to call them and find out what's up. So I called the Treasury, and I ended up getting a hold of the Inspector General for the United States Treasury. And I said, hey, man, I'm having this issue with the IRS. The IRS is a separate corporation that collects for the Treasury. Okay, so the Treasury's they exclusively collect for the Treasury. So the Treasury is like the corporation that they work for. So I called him and I said, hey man, if I gave you I told him the skinny, look, the IRS keeps hanging up on me. So I said, look, man, if I gave you the Social Security number, could you find out if I owe you anything? He said, oh yeah, man, we can do that. So I gave it to him. He come back and he said, hold on a minute. And he came back on the phone. He's like, hey, you don't owe us anything. Well, how can I owe the IRS $10,000 and it not be owed to the Treasury? He said, you need to call the tax advocacy group. He said, where are you at, man? I said, I'm over in East Tennessee. He said, I'm going to transfer this call to the tax advocacy group. And when they pick up, if they don't answer, I'm going to introduce myself to them, and then you continue on. I'm going to hang up, and you continue on with the message. So he calls. The tax advocacy group is another private group that, like the IRS, that works for the Treasury and to make sure that you get right rule with your tax issues. So, they leave a message, and a lady calls me back about a week later. I'm returning your call, and I break it down for her, and she's like, well, I'm just a secretary, so I'm going to send you over to this other person. And so I left a message, and she calls me back, and I break it down for her, man, and she's totally confused. So what ends up happening is I keep getting a runaround from this lady, because I filed. She said, "Well, you need to file this this paperwork, so we can get this in here. This is an appeal." So I filed it, and finally we get an answer from the IRS. The IRS lady's like, I'm gonna call you on such and such a date, and I'm getting absolutely no help from the tax advocacy group. Finally, I told her, I said, look, man, don't say nothing. Just, you're not doing anything, you're not helping or anything like that. So shortly after that, I get a call from a lady in Phoenix that was working for the IRS. And I break it down for her, man. I said, look, man, I didn't file any frivolous filings. Matter of fact, I got 2 contracts that prove that Jacob Lew from the United States Treasury filed them. And furthermore, stop calling me a taxpayer. I'm not a taxpayer, because every taxpayer is assessed to K Trust, and I break it down for her, right? And she's like, at the beginning, I've got all this recorded. I've recorded every one of these phone calls. And at the beginning of the recording, this lady gives me this big spiel about, I'm working for the IRS, and I'm an intermediary person that helps try and settle this tax stuff where it don't go to tax court, and my job is to get the taxpayer to voluntarily comply. I've got that recorded. IRS worker saying my job is to make sure that taxpayers voluntarily comply. So after she read this little spiel, I said, she said, you got any questions? I said, yeah. Did you say voluntarily comply? She said, well, yeah, I did. I said, okay. I said, I thought that's what you said. So we went on talking about this, and when I busted out with every taxpayer is assessed to K Trust, and I'm not a taxpayer, so please stop sending me mail that says "Dear Taxpayer," because I'm not. I am the human. I am the man. Hear me roar, So she's finally like, I'm not getting into any of this tax patriot stuff and all this and that. I said, look, lady, I said, I can prove this to you. I said, furthermore, you're claiming that it's a frivolous filing, but this federal judge in Greenville is saying this is a provable debt. here's the United States code that pertains to this. And, I've got copies of the discharge of the bankruptcy and, and I've got case law that says I'm not a taxpayer. And, I just blasted her, man. I've got contracts right here. She said, can you send me copies of those? I said, absolutely. I said, I thought the tax lady, the tax advocacy lady, I sent it all to her. I don't know why she didn't send it on to you. This woman at the IRS didn't even know who this lady was, never been contacted. And this lady at the tax advocacy group calls me at, 6, 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday night or, Saturday night. No, she don't want to talk. She don't want to talk to me. Every time she schedules an appointment, it's always a day or two later. Hey, I'm here. So she doesn't want to talk to me. She knows the deal. They probably told her, hey, man, don't say nothing to this guy. So finally I talked to this lady and I sent her a little packet. I said, yeah, I'll send it to you. You can ask this other lady, maybe she can fax it to you, get it quicker, but I'll send it to you. So I made up this thing, with the contract and, all this other stuff about I'm not a taxpayer and all this other stuff. And I sent it to her. Certified mail under the postal rule. We have a contract. You've got this. You've agreed to it. And after about a month, I get a call back. She's like, Mr. Hauser, we've decided to overturn this, and, we're sorry for the inconvenience, and we're going to remove this stuff right away. She's like, is there anything else we can do? I said, yeah, send me a letter, saying that you made a mistake and you've corrected it. That's all. I said, that's all I want. And that happened. That happened. No more tax lien. Now think about that. If you're saying you made a mistake, that you hit me with a frivolous filing, then the filings that I made were not frivolous. I even told her, I said, look, man, the Treasury filed. So if it's a frivolous filing, then go after the Treasury. They're the ones that filed. Hit them with the civil penalty. You're not going to hit your bank with the civil penalty. So, I get a letter back saying, Mr. Hauser, we regret that, that this has even happened. And, and all this, it was an apology. So, then, I told him, I said, that's all I want. Really? That's all you want? So, yeah, lift this tax lien. Give me access to my account, and send me a letter saying you messed up and you fixed the problem, and hey, we're green. So that happened. Now I've got the federal court discharging the $4 million debt because it's a provable debt, and I've got a letter from the IRS saying it's not a frivolous filing. Now, if it's not a frivolous filing, you owe me money, Treasury. And see, the reason that they did that was because if I said, oopsie, I'm sorry, my bad, what can I do to fix this? I tell you what, if, because I get this stuff from these tax lawyers all the time, you got a $10,668 debt. We can take care of this for you for $980, Yeah, pay that, The minute I would have paid that, right, I would have lost the $132.6 million. The minute that I would have went into that courtroom in Tennessee and said, I'm sorry, man, I'm guilty. And some of the guys did. There was a father and son. The son was 50 years old when we got locked up. They took a plea. Another guy took a plea, and then turned state's evidence, came to the trial and testified against us, but it didn't help. It didn't help at all, man, because the dude really didn't say anything to hurt us. Another guy died of cancer while we were locked up in jail. He's 73 years old. His name was Kenneth, and he went out to take his water pill because he's swelling in his feet and stuff like that. And the guard said, "Open your mouth, let me see the pill." And he's, "Man, I'm not a child, man. This is a freaking water pill, you know. Open your mouth, or I'm not opening my mouth. Get out." And he went to go back inside the pod. And this 26-year-old big freaking workout dude slammed him, picked him up and slammed him on the concrete. Then he became real sick. And his sister was an anesthesiologist at St. Mary's in Knoxville for 40 some years. She bonded him out. 4.5 months later, he was dead. Apparently, he had a tumor in his stomach, and when he was slammed, it ruptured and spread all over his body. So yeah, man. Friends of mine that his name was Kenneth Faust. Remember him. A true patriot. He died for this, okay? He died for this, man. He died for what we were doing. He died for us standing up for what we were doing. A real patriot. Another thing, out of the 9 people that were locked, or 10 people that were locked up, 9 of us were veterans. Okay? And he was one of them. Kenneth Faust, remember that name. Because he was a true hero. True hero. I often say that because we were never told of any crime, why were we locked up? We were locked up for an ideal. My friends that are still locked up are locked up for an ideal. If you don't tell us what the charges are, what else can it be? This is freedom fighting stuff. That's why I'm telling you, if you're shaky, please leave out. Because some of those guys were. Some of those guys that caught pleas were. The liens that they created and gave to the Treasury can now turn around and keep their 65%. Oh, you said that this was, a fraud. You admitted guilt that you did something illegal. Now we can't give you the money now. We're going to keep it 100% because, see, you signed it, Tim. That's why we don't move. Because if I would have went to the IRS and said, "Hey, man, that's me, I'm sorry," guess what? I just gave them 100% of the money. That's why I'm saying you can't be shaky, man. I care about shaky people. If you're shaky and you want to leave out from this deal, fine. I still care about you, and I wish you well. But this takes real men and real women to do what we do. I mean, it could be dangerous. The best thing that they could have done to us that day, instead of pick us all up, was frickin' snipe us all out. Because this has gotten worse on them. The judge herself, at the end of the trial, one of the lawyers approached and said, "Hey, man, this whole thing's been a farce, and, this is side bench kind of thing." And it's in the transcripts. This isn't right. What's happened to these guys isn't right. X, Y, and Z was wrong. This is motion for a new trial kind of stuff. And the judge actually said, and this is on the record, it's in the transcripts, I've got it, at least the lanes have stopped. So what this corrupt government did was, we're doing to them what they've been doing to us for a long, long time. And then when they find out that, hey, they're not the only ones that can do this, we got to do something to these people. Even if we got to violate them in every way possible, at least the lanes have stopped. So I think that's pretty much it with the what happened to us. So I appreciate y'all listening. This has been 2 hours, almost 2 hours of a video. So if you stuck around this long, man, you're real. like my black friends in prison used to say, "You're a real nigga." That's what they say to me. And I could say that when I was with them, you know. I think in the near future, I'm going to start on the prison videos. But for now, y'all, peace and blessings, and have a good day.